Oh, okay, so the recording has started now.
Okay.
Okay, so today is 22nd March 2024. It is currently 5 p.m. at the moment. Sir, should I give you an introduction to our audience?
Yes, you must.
Okay. And ladies and gentlemen, today we have the distinct honor of speaking with a man of valor and wisdom, Major General Pramod Sehgal. A stalwart of the Indian Armed Forces, Major General Sehgal's illustrious career spans over 4 decades, during which he has served with the distinction in the wars of 1962, 1965, 1971, and 1999. His expertise in the electronic warfare and his contributions to the military training have left an indelible mark on the defense sector. Beyond the battlefield, his commitment to the education and disaster management through NGO leadership showcases his dedication to nation building and community service. We are privileged to gain insights from his vast experience and deep understanding of both military strategy and human compassion.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would also.
Okay, I will start with the first question. Could you share some pivotal moments from your military career that shaped your leadership philosophy? You have served in 4 wars.
Yes, you're very right, but I will deal with a few issues that come to my mind instantly. First is I commanded a helicopter unit in 1973 in Srinagar. One fine day, when we had packed up, we got a message from our corps headquarters that 8 of our troops were critically injured because the Pakistanis had suddenly opened up with heavy artillery onto our picket at Gurez, and 8 of our soldiers needed immediate helicopter evacuation. It was raining, the weather was fully packed up. Army helicopters in those days had no night flying capability. We had no instruments to undertake flying in those areas. We were part of the Air Force at that point of time. After 12 o'clock in the day, you were not allowed to go into those valleys because winds were so horrendous that the helicopter was tossed around like a piece of paper, with the pilot being a mere spectator trying to make sure that the helicopter does not hit the either side. I was that time responsible for providing air observation post cover to Ladakh, and my area of operation was Ladakh, but this happened to be on the northeast of Srinagar, 150 kilometers across Rajdan Pass into highly forested and mountainous area. The Air Force was requested, because the eight troops were involved. Air Force was requested to undertake the evacuation of these helicopter evacuation. They brought in me 8 helicopters from Chandigarh, but as they were totally unaware of the area and it was very thickly forested and mountainous, they made 2 attempts, but they could not identify or locate that area, and eventually they had no option but to give it up. At this point of time, the RMO, that is the regimental medical officer, said the casualties are becoming extremely critical. If they are not given life-saving treatment, all of them will die before morning tomorrow. So the army commander intervened, flew in from along with the Air Vice Marshal from Udhampur, and landed in the Air Force Station in Srinagar, and said, I would like my army officers to take this mission on. As I said, we were not equipped for that area. We were not equipped for flying in that environment. In my area of responsibility was Srinagar. The army commander asked for volunteers to undertake this mission because it was risky and dangerous beyond description. Both the flight commanders and the flight commander of the neighboring flight, 15th flight, Colonel Fadani, volunteered. As we always believe that officers must lead from the front and through personal example. The army commander asked us, are we married? Colonel Fadani said he's a bachelor. He said, first rate, you should undertake this mission. He asked me if I was married. I said, yes, I was married. He said, how many children? I said, 2. He said, sons or daughters? I said, daughters. How old? I said, 3 years, and the second one is 3 weeks. He says, you will not stand down, you will not undertake this mission. I said, sir, I have mastered the, I'm the most highly qualified in my flying. I cannot send any subordinate of mine, as it's a very risky mission, and I think I would definitely be able to fulfill this mission. He said, is your wife in station? I said, yes. Can I speak to her? So the army commander was put through to my wife. and he said, your husband is volunteering for a mission where the chances of survival are less than 2 to 5%. Should he undertake this mission? Her response was prompt. She said, yes, because he will come back. The army commander had tears in his eyes, and he said, if that is the attitude and that is the bravery of the women of the Indian Armed Forces, God bless our adversary. Anyway, we took off at around 5:30. It was winter's January month. It was already pitch dark. There were 8 octa cloud. 8 octa cloud means the entire sky was fully covered. When we reached that area, once again, like the Air Force, we could not locate where the troops were. So we requested them to somehow or the other show a sign as to where they are. They fired colored smoke, red smoke. The moment the red smoke was fired, it was also visible to the enemy, and they could hear the choppers. So all hell broken. The heavy artillery was firing, medium machine guns were firing, anti-aircraft guns were brought into action, and there are thousands of bullets flying left and right of the helicopters. I was the mission leader. Colonel Thadani asked me, it's a mission impossible. What are the orders? I said, I can see the helipad. I'm going in for landing. His response was equally brusque. He said, the helipad appears to be large. Please keep space for me. I'm following. To cut the story short, we could pick up only 2 casualties in each of the helicopters. So we had to pick up 4, bring them to Kanzalwan, that is the battalion headquarters for immediate first aid. And we had to return back for picking up the remaining 4. When we returned back, Pakistan said, you were very lucky that you got away. Now we'll not let you go. And once again, everything was thrown at us. To cut the story short, by around 10 o'clock at night, we had safely evacuated all our casualties to military hospital in Srinagar. And when we looked at the helicopters, each of the helicopters had a number of hits. We were very fortunate that no bullet hit either sensitive portion or the. So we very strongly believe that cowards die many times before their death. The valiant never tastes of death but once. This is the first incident. The second incident again happened about a couple of weeks later. I got a message that there is 2 of our casualties on Marpola. Marpola Pass is where the Kargil war started. It started from Marpola Pass and extended 250 kilometers northeast thereafter. It is just after Zujila is a pass between Pakistan and India. And Pakistan suddenly opened up on a picket there, which was only 10 meters across. 10 meters from us was a Pakistani picket. And 2 of our people were grievously injured. The helicopter request for evacuation said there's 175 feet of loose snow. There's no road, there's no track, there's no helipad. Request helicopter evacuation. So this is something that possibly nobody in the world had confronted with. Firstly, you have a live enemy who will fire at you. Secondly, there's no road, there's no track, there's no helipad, there's 175 feet of loose snow. So first, what we had to do was to speak to our people across Pakistan and tell them that we are coming on a mission, mercy mission. Understanding between the 2 nations is that when you undertake mercy mission, they will not open up on you. So once they gave an assurance that they will not, we undertook a reconnaissance mission to identify a place where we could put the helicopter down. We located a flat piece, but that was full of 175 feet of snow. So we told them to barf ko kuto, press it so that when the helicopter lands, it does not sink in. So and then we said, mark the edges of the helipad and mark the center with the edge. They said they have got nothing to mark the helicopter with. Eventually, they use their rations, they use their coffee powder, and they use their chocolates to mark the helipad, etc. When we went there, what we was, something which was always up in our mind, that we should not suffer from whiteout. Whiteout is a condition when you have snow on the side, snow dropping from the top, and snow bottom. So as we came to land, put the helicopter down, the massive snow clouds were thrown up. My co-pilot immediately went into a sort of a massive disorientation, and I decided that we cannot put the helicopter down. So I told the troops there that we will keep the helicopter about a foot above the ground, and a lot of snow was being kicked up. Main rotors were moving, the tail rotors were moving, and if you hit into the rotors, your head will be chopped off. Under the circumstances, trying circumstances, please load the casualties somehow or the other. And well, that was another successful mission. Third is I was commanding a regiment in Gujarat in a place called Bhuj, in a peace station. We were suddenly told to move to Gurdaspur in the thick of emergency, that the thick of insurgency. After Operation Blue Star, there was insurgency in Punjab.
In Punjab.
In Punjab, and Gurdaspur was one of the riskiest areas. So my regiment was tasked with providing aid to civil power in Gurdaspur, in Firozpur, and in Amritsar. When I land, advance party moves in front. When I landed there, I realized that the security of the nation is of paramount importance. Then the security of the men you command comes next. We had operational tasks which were totally different from the tasks that we had in Bhuj. Enemy is not going to wait for you and say that you have no idea where the operational tasks are. So while we were preparing ourselves for the counterinsurgency operations, I also told my troops to go down to their op areas, familiarize themselves with the operational areas, and come back with workable plans to me. Obviously, they had gone for the first time. All of them got delayed. We expected them to be back by about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, but none of the parties returned before 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock at night. And what I realized at that point of time, there was extreme panic amongst the ladies. Ladies started crying and howling by saying that we don't know what's happened. I said, nothing to worry. They are all trained troops. They're well led and they're well experienced. They will come back. They came back at about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock at night. Next morning, I decided to address all the families. And I said, you cannot, and I will not allow you to degrade the morale and motivation of the men and men. If you want to stay in peace area or in that area with your family, with your husbands, then please be brave and encourage them to do their duty the way they are supposed to do. Otherwise, they'll pack up within 48 hours and go back. I was very firm and very tough. The message was not lost on. Second thing, I noticed that my predecessor, from whom I took over the battalion, was shot at while returning to the mess. So there was a huge security that was catered for my house and for my office. I had 1,000 people under my command and lots of families. I told my second in command, the security of all those is more important than my own security. If you provide security to everybody, I will automatically feel secure. So I made sure that the security to me as a commanding officer was taken off and complete parameter security was put into place and everybody felt secure. So once again, we have a Chairwood's motto saying the honor, safety and welfare of the country comes first, always and every time. I did not forget. Secondly, the safety, honor and welfare of the men you command comes next. Your own safety and honor comes last, always and every time. And this is something that as an officer, I always remembered and recognized. And I think it paid me handsome friends throughout my service career.
Very well said, sir. And moving to the next question, how do you think advancements in technology have changed the landscape of electronic warfare since your time in the service?
I am from the air defense. My job was primarily to provide air defense security to the entire airspace over the Indian nation. If you recall, in the 71 war, or in fact in Kargil war, the responsibility for security to the entire Indian airspace was that of the Indian Army up to a height of 1,500 meters. After 1,500 meters, it was the responsibility of the Indian Air Force. I had approximately 36 troops under my command and equipment worth about 100,000 crores. And air defense is the one which moves into a battle area first of all and is the last to leave. And we are the one who face horrendous electronic warfare threat. Even at that point of time, 61, 71, 99, electronic war threat was at every point of time. The enemy tries to make, jam your radars, they jam your aircraft, they try and jam your radar controlled missiles, your proximity fuse weapons are interfered with, and then you have the counter to that. From the time that I retired till now, technology has brought in phenomenal amount of changes. Artificial intelligence has come up, net-centric warfare has come up, cyber warfare has come up. So the degree of difficulty is increased manifold. But alongside that, you got better equipment, you got better radars, you got better trained troops, etc. And I can assure the nation that as far as electronic warfare is concerned, neither China nor Pakistan can get the better of us.
I would like to ask an extra question. Do you think that the advent of artificial intelligence will greatly benefit Indian defense sector?
At this point of time, I must say, without hesitation, that China is far advanced as far as artificial intelligence is concerned that we. But that notwithstanding, the Prime Minister has made it sure that within the next 3 to 5 years, India will become one of the major hubs as far as artificial intelligence is concerned. And we are working to and fro 24 by 7, 365 days to make sure that any weaknesses on our side are taken care of. And not only can we defend ourselves, but we can also cause serious difficulties to our adversary, whether it be China or Pakistan.
Yes.
If
In your
intelligence is
views, okay. In your views, what are the most pressing geopolitical challenges facing South Asia today, especially India?
it's a very interesting question and a question that is of eminence to everybody as of today. First and foremost, the biggest threat to peace and tranquility in South Asia is terrorism. Secondly, if you notice that this area on the east and west has got two of the largest drug producing centers, the Golden Crescent and the Golden Triangle. So drug trafficking is taking place in a very big way. Our youth, particularly in the border states, are being affected to the extent of 50 to 60% of the population, which is a great. Thirdly, there is a huge amount of geopolitical and economic instability in the neighborhood. If you see what's happened in Sri Lanka, if you see same thing happening in Nepal, Pakistan is absolutely kangal today because of the debt crisis, and that
Maldives
is a
has also shifted towards China by removing Indian troops from their territory.
the next area of huge concern is aggressiveness of China, expansionist policies of China and aggressiveness of China, both in the Indian Ocean region, in the Indo-Pacific region, through which 55 to 60% of trade passes, as well as on line of actual control. And China is beginning to pose a two-sided threat to India in collusion with Pakistan. And in addition to that, large-scale illegal migrations. If you notice, Rohingyas are creating a huge amount of problem for Bangladeshis as well as to some extent for us. Then there's illegal migration taking place into Assam and into West Bengal,
By
partly
Bangladeshis.
state-sponsored, partly other, which is bringing in demographic changes in the other areas. So they're adding a huge area of difficulty for us. In addition, there are certain other areas of keen interest to us, that is fake currencies being pushed into India. So these are some of the major challenges that South Asia is facing, particularly India.
And do you
But
think
that
that the do you think that
but
the
that
Indian
not-
government
that
you can go, sir.
notwithstanding, in the last 7 to 10 years, the government has secured the nation in a very significant manner. If you remember, prior to 2014, there was insurgency taking place in all states in Northeast. Today, virtually insurgency has become a thing of the past. Except for Manipur, there is virtually no insurgency anywhere in the Northeast. Armed Forces Special Power Act has also been removed, except for few areas, 2-3 districts of Assam, some districts of Manipur, and 3 districts of Arunachal. It's been removed from everywhere. And the development of Eastern India has been possibly far more than the development elsewhere. It is becoming a part and parcel of our Act East policy, which is succeeding very significantly.
Yes. And coming to diplomacy, how can nations better collaborate to address transnational security threats in the current geopolitical climate?
To answer this question, firstly, one would have to identify what are the transnational security threats. The biggest transnational security threat today is, I will say, global terrorism. Terrorism is the greatest threat to peace and security, not only for India or Southeast Asia, but to the entire world. Wherever any incident is taking place, our neighbor is directly or indirectly involved. Second thing is the global commons. China in Indo-Pacific, that is in South China Sea, East China Sea, says the entire water there up to 1,200 kilometers, that is up to 9 dash line is theirs. They say entire airspace is theirs. All what is there in terms of oil, gas, minerals, fisheries, etc. belongs to them. This is something that we're not willing to accept, and there's something that nobody can accept, because 90% of the global trade passes through the Indo-Pacific, and obviously it cannot be.
And China wants to control that.
China not only wants to control it, but they want to be the biggest beneficiary. Because if you accept that water belongs to them and the airspace belongs to them, uske through jaoge to you have to pay bhada. as you pay through when you pass through Suez Canal or you pass through Panama Canal, you got to pay freight. Similarly, you'll have to pay freight too. Third biggest worry today is that United Nations has become defunct, and United Nations no longer, Security Council no longer serves the needs of the present world. So it's very important that if you really want global collaboration to take place, in addition to various alliances that are coming into being, like for for security of the global commons in Indo-Pacific, you have the Quad, and then you have certain other alliances like AUKUS, etc. You got to make sure that the Security Council is restructured to include nations like India, to include nations like South Africa, Brazil, etc., which are representative of the aspirations of people today as against aspirations of the victorious nations of the Second World War.
Right. And what advice would you give to young officers entering the military academy today?
That's again a very interesting question. What I would tell them that they're entering into a career which is full of excitement, full of adventure, full of opportunities. They must learn to train hard, remain physically fit, and learn the skills to the extent that they can, so that tomorrow when they go down to field area, they can deal with the adversary, who is a very clever adversary, both in the north and the south, to the extent that is possible. And we would like to tell them that by God's grace, you being very well looked after, you being very well catered for, the infrastructure is in place, everything that you want today in terms of the wherewithal to survive and to deliver is in place. So make the best of it, work hard, train hard, learn your skills, and enjoy the opportunities that the Indian Armed Forces offer to you.
Right. And from your experience in training civil service aspirants, what qualities do you believe are essential for successful public servants?
The same qualities that are needed by you and by me. First and foremost, honesty, character, integrity, sensitivity, knowledge and awareness. Unless you're knowledgeable and you're aware and you have compassion and you have sensitivity, you cannot actually apply that knowledge and awareness in a manner that is appropriate for those in trouble. And character and
Right.
integrity and ethics and principles must never be compromised, irrespective of the pressures that come from the politicians or the bureaucracy.
Yes. And let's talk about your role in the NGO. Can you describe the role of NGOs in disaster management and how military expertise contribute to this field?
I will talk about some of the disaster managements that I was personally involved with. If you recall, in 2004, we had a tsunami. At that point of time, I was a director of one of the largest disaster management NGOs in the country, Bharatiya Jain Center. 400 schools and 10 hospitals disappeared in 30 seconds in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Virtually, there was no school left and there was no hospital left. And the owner of the NGO said, General Sahab, do something. I approached the government of India. I approached all the leading industrialists. I approached everybody who was worth approaching in the country. No funds were forthcoming. So I had now two options, either to sit on the haunches and do nothing, or think something out of the box. I decided to write to two people. One is President Bill Clinton for Bill Clinton Foundation, and second is Bill Gates. There was so much of strength and character in the 3-paragraph letter that I wrote to them that President Bill Clinton immediately said within a week sent a very large check to start the work. And thereafter, the entire Jain community pooled in resources in a very significant manner. We got the best engineers, the best architects from the world over. And it takes today, if you want to construct a school and make it operational, it takes you more than 2 to 3 years. Same thing goes for a hospital. You will be surprised that we constructed 400 schools and 10 hospitals and made them fully functional within 1 year. And I requested the president at that time, I said, you are known as the children's president. I said, bringing 500 people together at any place today in Andaman Nicobar is an impossibility because of complete damage to infrastructure. But if you come forward and inaugurate these, I'll bring in thousands of people in front of you. He flew in within 48 hours and inaugurated this. Second thing, if you remember, I had said I was commanding a regiment in Bhuj. If you recall, in that area, there was a massive earthquake that came several years back, almost about 2 decades back. And a lot of buildings were destroyed, everything was destroyed.
A lot of people died.
Same NGO, Bharatiya Jain Center, and a lot of other NGOs immediately moved in before even the government. In fact, government has limitations, but the NGOs जो है वो पहले move in कर जाते हैं. They provided them tents, they provided them food, they provided them medicines, they brought in doctors, etc. And then, as far as the army is concerned, when the army moves in, everything virtually is in place. You have doctors, you have medicine, you have food, you got everything, you have transportation, etc. Roads are opened up, helicopter evacuation takes place, etc. So the two of them combined can do wonders. Then I will recall one more. If you remember, Uttarakhand mein, there was huge
landslides.
Landslides and
landslides. Yes.
Some years back, through helicopters, the Indian Armed Forces evacuated 100,000 people in flat 15 days. This was the largest helicopter evacuation anywhere in the world. I have flown in similar valleys. Not more than one helicopter can fly at a point of time. We pushed in 10 helicopters flying 24 hours, 365 days, those 15 days round the clock. So that is what the armed forces expertise can do. Even if you notice, जब कुएं में बोरवेल में बच्चे गिर जाते हैं and civil administration fails to survive, bring the child out, and eventually the armed forces are called in, लोगों में खुशी की लहर उठ पड़ती है. वो कहते हैं अभी हमारा बच्चा बच जाएगा क्योंकि army is coming. And that is the reputation that we have, that we are here to help you and help you by doing things where we convert the impossibility into a possibility.
Right. And I would like to move to the geopolitical situation. With the evolving dynamics of global power, what strategies should India adopt to maintain its strategic autonomy and security?
This is one of the finest questions, and I simply loved it when I read it. There are no permanent friends and permanent enemies.
Only permanent interests.
Only permanent interests. The present government realizes where does the India's interest lie. There is no longer our foreign policy made in Russia or foreign policy made in America. Our now foreign policy is one that is made in India. We are equidistant from both the powers. If you notice, in terms of Ukraine, India has maintained its own position. We continue to import weapons from there. We continue to import S-400 from there, despite American threat of sanctions. We continue to import large-scale oil, etc. And yet remain amongst the most influential country in the world. And everybody in the world today is bending backwards to India. And we have also, in the last G20 meet, because of our policies, which is to maintain strategic autonomy and equidistance from both sides. If you notice, recently only Prime Minister spoke to both on the same day, both to Zelensky as well as Putin. And both of them have said they've invited the Prime Minister to visit their countries. They feel that if anybody can now bring in some sort of a peace in those areas, it is India. It is India. But only thing they said after elections. Similarly, we are also playing a very silent role in trying to do something major as far as the Middle East is concerned. If at all it succeeds, our Prime Minister has spoken to Netanyahu. They have a personal chemistry. They have a very, very thorough understanding of the situation. India continues to say that in the present day environment, war is not a solution. Dialogue and diplomacy. And we are also saying that if you want a permanent peace in that area, two-state policy has to be adhered to. So in other words, India is both helping Hamas, Palestinians, as well as the Israelis. We say that they have a right to defense. What happened on 7th October was something that was highly condemnable. But what has been
Israel doing in Gaza is also condemnable.
They've crossed all limits of acceptability. And they are now virtually indulging in war crimes. And India has no hesitation in saying so.
Right. Yes, I would like to ask another question. What are some common concerns you encounter while counseling youth, and how do you address them? There exists a huge generational gap between you and a lot of the youngsters.
When I retired in 2002,
yes.
I was appointed as a managing director of Reliance. There was a huge amount of happiness in my family. because MD of Reliance meant that you were getting one of the topmost jobs in the private sector. To everybody's surprise, I declined. Thereafter, I was appointed as the director of a MITI. Once again, I declined. I said, I've been in the army for 41 years, including my training. I would like, मैं दुनिया को जानता हूँ लेकिन अपने आप को नहीं जानता पहचानता. I said, I will go into deep meditation for 41 weeks. And through that meditation, I realized that if you really want to secure your nation and strengthen your nation, the best way is to reach out to the underprivileged child.
To the youth.
And I have counseled about 20 lakh children in 25 states of India. And on the request of the PMO, I'm also training 32,000 principals of RSS schools on what is skill-based education and what is digital India. And I've also trained 10,000 teachers on the finest global opportunities, India-specific, post-pandemic. In addition, I'm training for the last 15 years civil services aspirants for interview only. And I'm doing all this gratis without levying any charge whatsoever. Whoever invites, I have also addressed children of several thousand schools. What I notice is that they're completely oblivious of the opportunities that have come into being. When I went to the most literate state, Kerala, I was still shocked to find that the chancellors, vice chancellors, parents wanted their child only to be an engineer or to be a doctor. Maximum literacy, maximum, I will say, सबसे ज़्यादा जो joblessness है वहाँ पर है, because they don't take up. So I told them there are hundreds of more careers. There are 5,000 opportunities that are today available, like artificial intelligence, machine learning, quantum computing, cloud computing, etc. And not many others. I told them through humanities, through commerce, through science, etc., which they could lean on to. And they were absolutely stunned and all that. Then I tell them how to judge as to where their interest lies. The problem is that the child does not know. In fact, they wanted a child. When I went down to certain rural schools, hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, I can hear you.
When I went down to certain rural schools, the child was only learning humanities, but wanted to become a doctor or engineer. So they didn't even know that to become a doctor or engineer, you have to have a certain variety of subjects. And this is very unfortunate. Secondly, I realized that the quality of teachers and student to teacher ratios is something totally unacceptable.
Yes.
The teachers, 50 to 60% teachers in our rural areas are political appointees, जो खुदा से भी नहीं डरते. उनका अपना character, उनका अपना discipline, उनका अपने ethics are something you shudder, because the child today either emulates the master, the teacher, or the parents. And if these are the role models, then we're in difficulty. To this extent, I wrote a letter to the Prime Minister, and a lot of work is being done in this area.
Yes. And I would like to ask you one last question, because our meeting is coming to end in 5 minutes. How has your transition from military to civilian life influenced your approach to community service and education? Even after 40 years of service in the army, you continue to serve your nation diligently and selflessly.
It's a very interesting question. Like I said, I was offered the job of a MD of Reliance. I was to be looking after the complete power distribution sector in Odisha. Then I was appointed as director of MITI to take over from Lieutenant General as the overall head of MITI. And I refused, because I said I want to go to deep meditation to identify for myself कि भाई दुनिया को पहचानते हो, दुनिया को जानते हो, अपने आप को जानो, अपने आप को पहचानो. And that's the time I realized that if you really want this country to progress, the only means is available is through the child and giving him better quality and better education. And that's what I transited from military life into civil life, and I've had no difficulty whatsoever. I've visited more than 5,000 schools, colleges, all IITs and some IIMs. On an average, I'm addressing children of 30 to 40 colleges of Delhi University every year prior to pandemic. And even today, every week I'm addressing some college, some university, some IIT, or facing interviews like you. I've been on the TV more than 25,000 times. So I found no difficulty whatsoever. Unfortunately, most of our senior officers in the armed forces, when they retire, they take up to golf, playing golf only or playing bridge only. All of us have had expertise and experience to contribute significantly for nation building. But unfortunately, reasons best known to them, because obviously to move out You got to get out of your comfort zone every day. And
Yes.
prior to the pandemic, I was on an average 15 days out of my house. And in 2010 to 2012, on the request of the Shri Ravi Shankar ji, I went to in those areas where even angels dare to tread. पुलवामा, शोपियां, कुलगाम, अनंतनाग. श्री रविशंकर ने कहा कि कश्मीर आपसे छिन जाएगा. उन युवकों को जाके हिंदुस्तान के साथ जोड़िए. And I managed to reach out to 30 to 40,000 children every year for 15 to 20 days each of these years in those areas. And then on the request of the Chinmaya mission, I did large-scale counseling in dacoit-infested areas of Madhya Pradesh. And similarly, on the request of the JNV, I did large-scale counseling in the most infested areas. ये सिर्फ फौजी कर सकता है और कोई नहीं कर सकता.
Yes, sir, I cannot express enough how honored I am to have had this opportunity to converse with you. Your service to our nation and is a beacon of inspiration, and your ongoing efforts in guiding the future generation are truly commendable. On the behalf of our listeners and myself, I extend our heartfelt gratitude for sharing your valuable time and profound insights with us. Your stories of courage and dedication will undoubtedly resonate with us all. Thank you once again for this unforgettable encounter.
Thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed this interaction. Do send me the link, please.
Yes, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. God bless.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.